Hello everybody, welcome back to Dominions 5. We're going to continue our analysis, our playthrough of the tournament finals where we played as MA Ulm. I'm saying analysis now because the game is over. This is future me. I wasn't able to record everything as I played it. And, most of these episodes were recorded certainly after the fact, but there's the game has been over. Lucid has already been posting his videos on it, and there's been a lot of chat in the game channel with all the other players. So we all have sort of more insight into what other players were thinking and were doing at the time. So I think this is the correct turn. We're on turn 46. I think I ended the last video on turn 45. We were trying to do 5 episodes a turn, so we'll try to keep that up. We're still actively... we're getting... Our war with Jotunheim is subsidized by East. It's not entirely true. We're trading for it, so... but we need the gold, otherwise we die and we become completely irrelevant. So we're just going to click on these. We're fighting PD, so nothing significant here. Fighting PD, nothing significant. Here we have a Scruddy. Here we have... Looks like... So I forgot these moves, but apparently... Our forces defeated the attacking force from Jotunheim in... Oh, sorry, from Jotunheim, the nation. I thought this fight happened on Jotunheim, the capital, for some reason, which clearly is impossible. I think we were storming this fort, yeah. So we were going to storm this, and I think this is probably him popping out and then retreating. Yeah, he's just trying to save his mages, so that's all that is. And then later we take the fort itself. Another thug of his. Another thug. We kill a small raiding party here, by luck. So we've got, I think we just got a mage and a few plate dudes and legions of steel. And then chop, chop, chop. He's on cast spells for some reason. I guess he's only a Nair 1 and no gear. So looks like what happens mostly is his 3 Sacreds are unable to do any damage to my guys, so there's no reason they would ever rout, and eventually we do enough damage to his squad. There's only 3 of them, so they had to pass a lot of morale checks, and they failed eventually. So we win that. What's this battle here? Huh. Okay, interesting. So we've got a pile of Sacreds. Maybe... Oh, this is a big thug with Shield of Valor. He's Air 5 because he's got an air booster and he's got 4 air gems. And on the other side we have Gog Reavers, some Sacreds, and a few mages in the back. So let's see what this is. Oh, sorry, I have the sound coming from my speakers. I don't want to give weird feedback, so let me turn those down. Okay, so he's just doing Fog Warriors, looks like. And some Air Elementals, Phantasmal Army. So the matchup here on the front line is these Sacreds. So the Sacred Vans have 20 defense, 13 protection, but now they have Mist Form and Glamour. Whereas these guys, with their Bless, have 16 attack, which is a decent attack skill. But, yeah, and he does have magic weapons, so that'll help for the Fog Warriors. Not super high protection, only 14 protection. So he is going to take hits from the cavalry. And we also have Gog Reavers sort of on the flanks. But actually, with this Phantasmal Warriors, he's able to prevent Ind from getting a flank, right? Ind with the Gog Reavers might have been able to completely surround these vans and get a lot of harass penalty. But for a while, the Phantasmal Reavers were really able to round out the sides. Although now it looks like finally we are getting a bit of a concave. And then we've got air Let's see, we've got Thunder Strikes. Not a lot of spells coming from these mages because they're pretty tired. But on this side, we have Astral Spam going. There's a Solar Rays and Soul Slay. We've got a small Astral Communion going. Looks like the Vans are severely diminished in numbers. Solar Rays taking care of the undead. And Soul Slays are seems to have done a lot of work here. Let's speed it up a little bit. Okay, so the Vans are routing. We'll look on the... Yeah, more Soul Slays. We're going to look on the report just to see the numbers. All right, that's Kalti. He loses the air booster too. Okay, so quite a loss here for Vanheim. Yeah, so 20. So this, I don't know. This is, I don't know what information Vanheim had trying to pick this fight. Ind is a nation that can really. They have a lot of good recruitable troops. So their sacreds, they're not like amazing troops, but a lot of them are pretty solid. So, you know, these sacreds are solid troops and they're not super expensive. You can pump up quite a few of them because in your capital, your number of sacreds you can recruit is, unlike for other nations, just depends on the number of temples you have in your empire. So the more temples, the more sacreds you can recruit. And at 15, 18, 14, you can actually get a lot of these per turn. So you're going to have quite a number of sacreds. And then you get other dudes that you can recruit, including Gog Reavers. These are in your mountain and cave provinces, which are really solid troops. You've got some heavy infantry here, the Lady Warriors, which are also pretty decent. So, and although this Ind player isn't doing it, you can also get free spawn chaff, which is just sort of kind of like indie troops, but some of it is not terrible, like it's free spawn, right? So I think if you're fighting Ind, you should expect to fight large numbers. And actually, this is a small number. So previously, Ind has taken some losses. So maybe that's why Vanheim, for some reason, expects there not to be a lot here. But Ind can really bring a lot of human chaff to bear. And it's not garbage chaff. And then he's going to have a sacred astral communion behind it. And the problem with Vans and elves in general is that they're amazing until a certain threshold and then they're garbage, right? And that threshold is when the numbers of the opponent are able to overwhelm your defense. Because what makes elves strong is the defense combined with the glamour, and in this case combined with Fog Warriors. Although he has magic weapons, so Fog Warriors isn't super relevant. So, 21 Vans, they're size 3, going to have 2 per unit. So that's 10 squares of elves, right? So if you're matching up against 10 squares of humans, then you're probably kind of okay. Right? If you're just lining up 10 squares of elves versus 10 squares of humans, I mean, it depends on the stats of the humans. But you're not getting surrounded. That's pretty good. But in this case, we have 10 squares just of soldier priests, which are sacreds with magic weapons. So Fog Warrior's not doing anything. Plus, these guys are size 3, so this is another, 8 squares of units. Let's say another 12 squares in total. So we've got double the squares. And when I say square, I mean like on the battlefield, one of these guys. So for size 2 troops, you're going to have 3 units per square. Right? So we have double the amount of squares of troops for Ind as we do for Vanheim, which means that his guys are going to get surrounded and they are going to get harassed down. So you can try to counter that with scripting by trying, for example, to go and destroy one of the formations before you fight the other one. But that can be hard to predict where the opponent's formation is. So here it looks like it's just a big battle in the middle. Now, he was able to stave that off a little bit with the Phantasmal Warriors, like I said. But let's also talk about the scripting here for Vanheim. He's got... he's got this guy who's doing Fog Warriors. I think Fog Warriors is a bit of a waste here, given that he's got a ton of Sacreds with magic weapons. It's a bit of a waste because it's a waste in terms of fatigue. It takes a ton of fatigue, so this guy isn't doing much for most of the fight. Honestly, a ton of air elementals would probably have won him this fight. If he does storm, and then each guy here puts out a big air elemental, and then this guy puts out a bunch more air elementals, that would do great. So yeah, a few air elementals here I think would have been a better use of fatigue, because storm he gets to 44. I think then he must do summon air power to get up to 6 maybe to reduce fatigue on Fog Warriors. Here comes Fog Warriors. So he did have some guys doing air elementals. Oh, this guy here. That's weird. So he's got a skull staff. But to cast what? Just Skeleспam? I don't know. There's just not quite enough. However, on the other side, we've got Astral Communions that have been effective for End in terms of just artillery, Soul Slay, but we're still not seeing any buffs whatsoever, and it's really late in the game, and End has Earth access. Like, they should have buffs on these guys. Like, he's relying on it, and he lost a lot, right? So, I mean, his mages survived. I think this is a clear victory for End, but especially because the vans are so expensive, they're 65 gold each. But you need, like, if these guys had like any kind of protection buff, they would have been much more one-sided than this. Anyways, so these two guys still can't get over who should own this fort. Is what's happening here. For me, this means that I'm able to clean up my southern provinces from Vanheim's influence, although I still have to contend with these Scrati all over the place. Interestingly now, the Scrati have raided my west, so now I have like a double border protection against, or insulation against what's happening here. So all this is Vanheim, and then there's even a Scrati layer here between me and what's happening here between Vanheim and Roos. Something that is worth pointing out, so I don't get the scouting info on this, but there is a big battle sometime in the next few turns in Vanarus's capital, and I don't get to see it, so we'll have to wait for Lucid's cast to see what that is, and I'll be curious to see it. However, we do have to keep in mind that Ys is close to getting the thrones he needs for victory. He is going after Vanarus, and by going after Vanarus, he would get this throne here, and presumably this throne here. But this is like Vanarus has this weird situation where he was fighting Bandarlog, and so had kind of conquered this before he conquered Bandarlog itself. So even if Vanarus was, let's say, winning a defensive war at home in his core lands, he'd be in a difficult position to defend this throne from Ys. So this is a throne that's vulnerable, and this is a throne that's vulnerable now from Ys taking it over. And Ys already has this underwater throne, he has this throne here, and he has that throne here, and you need 6 to win. So with his 3 that he has already, he'd take these 2 from Vanarus, and then he'd need only 1 more. And that's why we're coming down here to secure this throne, because we don't want him to suddenly show up here with an army. Although this is very difficult logistically for Ys to do because of slow underwater movement. He could do it, and he's presumably high enough in tech that he could also do a magic phase attack, which is another reason why we need to one day come here and protect this throne. So that's what we're working on with this army here. In the next few turns, we're going to try to move up here, clear this area up, and go and retake this throne finally. But one thing at a time, so we're going to take this throne over. Let's, by the way, I haven't looked at tech. What were we doing here in tech? I have no idea. Why were we getting enchantment 6? I guess because one day it would be nice to have like a relief and maybe Serpent's Blessing. Arrowfend? Probably Arrowfend is what I was thinking. Arrowfend would be really nice to cast ourselves so that we don't take as much friendly fire from our own Iron Blizzard. Incidentally, I want to point out Carl here, who has been with us since the very beginning. He is diseased, weakened, limp, has battle fright, and has lost both arms. Keep going, Carl. I think, wait, is he in the Hall of Fame? No, I think he does get in the Hall of Fame eventually, so let's keep an eye on him. Okay, so that was turn 46. Let's go to turn 47. Okay, so what's going on here with Ind and the gold and the fire gems is I am forging some lightless lanterns for him. And the reason is, so with a hammer, any nation, like Ind, for example, can forge lightless lanterns for 3 fire gems, right? Now, I can forge them for 1 fire gem. So what I tell Ind in this case is, look, you wanted to forge a bunch of lightless lanterns. Just send me your 3 fire gems per lantern that you wanted, that you were going to spend anyways. I'll forge the lanterns and get them back to you. So you spend the same amount of gems you would have, but your mages get to research for those turns. So he gets a benefit. It delays the lanterns by like a turn or 2, but he gets those mage turns to do other things. So that's a benefit for him. And what do I get? Well, it costs me mage turns, so my guys have to make them for a turn or 2. But I get 2 fire gems per lantern because it cost me only 1 gem to make them. So that's what's going on here. We're just trading for fire gems. Basically, we're just getting free fire gems. Let's look if any of these battles were relevant. We're moving on to the fort. Nothing big happens here. Werewolf. Another thug. Ind takes out... I don't know what that was. Thug. Nothing here, really. Bandar log fighting knights. We kill some PD. And another thug. Is this Carl? Oh, there we go. Carl is now in the Hall of Fame. Okay, so let's look at the map here. So Jotunheim is spreading out his thugs down in the south. So whereas before we had to deal with 2 players raiding us, now Van is mostly too occupied with Ind, and so we're basically only dealing with 1 player. We've reclaimed these 3. The issue is with all these Scrati, or he's got 1 Thermscode, you could end up with a situation where there's like 2 Scrati in 1 province. So I can't just... So I have to be more careful with my counter-raiding parties. So that's something to keep in mind here. Anyways, we're going to try to keep our cap circle clear so we can keep recruiting our guardians. And here we are... You'll notice I didn't quite 1-turn pop it, which is a sign that I have taken a little bit of attrition. I'm reinforcing with a few more sappers to try to keep popping those forts as quickly as possible. But let's move on. Yes, I'm sending the lanterns and stuff to those players. Turn 47, let's go to turn 48. Getting more gold from East and fire gems. All right. More rating, more rating, more rating. See, on this province here in Roca. So I did not, so he didn't control this last turn. So he moved all 3 thugs onto this fort. I think it's a bit of a weird move. If you're moving your 3 thugs together, I think you're trying to ambush counter raiders. And so maybe he thought, like, so he's been standing on top of my forts a lot. And normally you want to clear people off your forts. And so I could imagine, like, it looked like he was standing on top of this fort. So I might have thought, well, he's going to move all his guys now on this fort, and I want to try to, like, patrol my fort. And then he thought, but I'll outplay him. I'll move 3 thugs, and he'll have patrolled only to kill 1 thug, and then I'll get his squad. So maybe that's what he was thinking. That's not what I end up doing. Now I have to. There's like a Jedi move here where so it's a waste of time usually to siege down something with just thugs, right? Because they don't do any siege. They'll never break the walls. So the normal move is now to move off of here and raid other provinces. Therefore, I just probably break with like a small army. But what if he anticipates that and stays with all of his guys? Then he can cripple that small counter-raiding army. So I am actually going to move and patrol with my big counter-raiding force here, because if he does try to like super outplay me, then I will outplay him and I'll get the kill. But even if that doesn't happen, he's going to end up in all these neighboring provinces, and then from here I can radially go out and retake the provinces, whatever provinces he decides to take. Reclaiming land as best we can. We're going to storm the fort here. Yep. That's all there is to it. So he's been trying to gradually siege down Jotunheim again, but it's he's only got like a few Vidi archers, so it's going to take forever. So that's not really a big deal. Let's go to the next turn. Did we skip a turn? Yeah. Hang on, that's turn 50. What is in this folder? Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. Looks like we don't have turn 49. So I guess we skipped 2 turns. So, but you can see that after 2 turns, the movement has kind of gone as predicted. Let's just see if there are any interesting fights this turn. Nothing too significant. Oh, we'll look at this in a moment. Okay, let's look. Yeah, there's actually a bunch of interesting stuff here. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff this turn. Okay, so before we focus on our stuff, let's take a look at this Vanheim versus Ind battle. Not a lot of Sacreds, but a lot of Gog Reavers, and a big old Astral Communion in the back. Meanwhile, plus his Prophet. Meanwhile, Vans with a few Einhirs in front. Not a similar mage squad here. And a few light thugs. Okay. Wrathful Skies. Oh, I didn't even see these guys back here. Here's the Prophet. Okay. Wrathful Skies. How much shock resistance is in this Bless? None, right? Yeah. So Wrathful Skies is pretty nice against a lot of chaff, and if he gets a couple lucky strikes on the Communion, that could be devastating. Now you can see there was a pretty devastating round of Soul Slays going off right at the beginning, and there's like, geez, it's like 7 or 8 Soul Slays per turn that are going off. So Looks like definitely a couple of thunderstrikes here hit the communion. Unfortunately, the Vans got absolutely annihilated because, and oh geez, the Einherjars too. Oh my god, they actually routed. Hang on, let's look at that again, because the Berserkers routed before they went Berserk, so that's pretty unfortunate. Let's see how that happened. Well, there weren't too many of them. Oh, they were in the front, so they just got wrecked by the Soul Slay. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, look, this squad just routes. Because they ate all the Soul Slays. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And there actually aren't that many Vans. They're going to get completely surrounded by these, like, triple-wielding Berserkers. The defense is going to go all the way. Defense is going to get crapped on. I guess it's too early in that particular turn. They haven't done their attacks yet. Oh, well, if they don't get Soul Slayed first. Jeez. Even losing... so the Wrathful Skies, I like as a strategy. And you can see it did kill 6 of these mages, but with the communion he had going, he was still getting a lot of Soul Slays off every turn. And they just, like, they got 16 kills. He only has, like, 40 units total. So that's like half your dudes just getting killed in the first few rounds of combat. You need to have a lot of numbers to go up against an Astral Communion. And Vanheim did not quite have enough here. And I mean, 63 Gog Reavers, these are really nasty units, so 63 of them is quite impressive. All right, let's look at what happened to us. Let's look at this fight. So this is an example where he did combine all his forces. He's got 3 fully geared thugs, and we have a small force. Well, we actually have 3 mages, and maybe this would have been enough to deal with 2 Scruddy, but perhaps not with 3. Let's see how. Yeah, not with... And the reason why this isn't quite enough is because... you know, he's got a lot of... These guys have Vine Shields. And the key to killing these guys is if I completely surround one with Guardians, they're kind of strong enough to once in a while get out of the Vine Shield. And if you completely surround them, then they will get enough hits in to beat the regeneration because they just hit so hard that eventually they'll kill one. But with 3 of them, you can see that each Scruddy was actually only surrounded by like 2 squares of infantry. Although we do get a route on this guy. Each one was only surrounded by like 2 or 3 squares of infantry, and so that's not enough people breaking the Vine Shield each turn to get a kill. Now, unfortunately, my guys decide to run, but it's far too late, and so they all get killed. So that is why it's dangerous if randomly he puts all his wolves together. Now, that comes at a cost, though. It means he doesn't grab as much land. And here is a case where we do catch a werewolf with a significantly larger army. See, this would probably have killed his 3... in fact, this would definitely have killed the 3 werewolf stack. This army, maybe. Looks like we don't get a kill, but we win the fight. Taking a lot of friendly fire. I think we just get a lucky morale hit there. So, looking at the map, So 2 turns ago we had taken this fort and we left our god here to claim it because he can fly. By the way, this chassis can fly. So my plan is now to go and take this fort. I'm taking all the fort because all these forts are kind of bunched up together, so I can safely move from one to the other, capturing them, and still stay within range of like important targets, like coming back to defend this fort and things like that. I've got a tiny raiding army here to take these provinces because his Scridi are all in my land, so they're not over here defending his own stuff. All the stuff that we took back from Vanheim, now Jotunheim has taken back from us. So it's just really a dance of raiding and counter raiding. Here, I'm guessing maybe he's going to go back onto my capital because he seems to like to do that a lot. So instead of retaking these provinces, we're just going to have a big move on the capital and see if we can anticipate that move. Down here, we're just going to regrab land that is ours. Most of his Scridi are now in this area, so I'm not too worried about like 3 Scridi being in this province, so I can afford to take this back with a small raiding group. And honestly, it's not a huge priority for me to retake these forts because I can't even afford to be recruiting from them in the first place. I can barely recruit out of my cap as it is. So, the cat and mouse game continues between Jotunheim and myself. Yeah, so that's it. So let's wrap it up here. Got a shorter episode in this time. We made it to turn 50. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.